Candidates for this year's probatoire examination in the French subsystem of education in Cameroon have begun writing their examination nationwide. It is their gateway into sitting in for the baccalaureate exam next year should they succeed. Exams began today hitch-free in Douala. Cameroon joins the international community to commemorate Sickle Cell Anemia Day today. In line with this, the center in charge of sickle cell anemia at the Lakintini Hospital in Douala received some gifts to facilitate their activities. And in sports, at last, Africa writes her name in the ongoing World Cup competition in Russia, with Senegal taking a lead over Poland 2-1. The victory of Senegal is expected to galvanize the other African ambassadors to this jamboree in Russia, ambassadors who were all beaten in their first outings. Details of these stories up next in the news. Do not go away. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the primetime edition of the news here on DBS Television. Today is the 19th of June, 2018. We begin with this sports brief. The match pitching Japan versus Colombia that began this afternoon ended 2-1 in favor of Japan. So far, the first red card has been recorded in this ongoing World Cup in Russia. The red card was awarded to Colombia, who ended up playing 10 against 11. The match ongoing between Egypt and Russia is at a pause now with scoreline 0-0 on either side. We'll be expecting that Egypt would also follow suit from Senegal. We'll update you as the match unfolds in our subsequent editions of the newscast. We begin with this education news. The 2018 probatoire examinations have kicked off nationwide this Tuesday. Thousands of candidates from the high schools in the French subsystem of education are sitting in for the set exams, as we would hear in the following paper by Amadou Diallo Boba.
Students in the French subsystem of education have begun writing the probatoire exam across the national territory this Tuesday, June 19, 2018. It is the last national examination for this year that is being organized by the BAC board. Students in the economic capital join their counterpart to sit in for the exam, which is considered by many as a simple ticket for upper SIF, bearing in mind that it is one of those exams that are limited in terms of equivalent with other systems such as the English subsystem. That notwithstanding, candidates writing the set exam are put under strict and, of course, examination rules. Those who will be declared successful have 1 year to study in upper SIF or terminal as called in French, during which they will sit in for the baccalaureate exam that leads to post-high school studies.
In health news, the Integrated Center in charge of sickle cell anemia at the Lakintini Hospital has received some gift. Rael Ule Abia says it was in line with commemorative activities of the International Sickle Cell Anemia Day. Her reports.
It is World Sickle Cell Anemia Day, the 10th edition, that was animated by a series of activities organized at the Integrated Center for Sickle Cell at the Lakintini Hospital, Douala. Today, the center plus its patients received some gifts worth 500,000 francs CFA offered by Ebony Ladies. They are medical equipment or items that are expected to facilitate the management of sickle cell patients.
We started the adventure. I'm going to call it an adventure. We wanted to do something different. So we got together, all the ladies, 12 of us, and we decided, what can we do different? In what area can we make an impact? So as my friend mentioned before, HIV is popular, paludism, malaria also. So in what area are we going to make a difference and put a light on something that is in the shadow?
While gifts are coming in at the Integrated Center, young parliamentarians are on their feet advocating for the reduction of cost of sickle cell cases, increase in diagnosis centers, reduction of stigmatization. It is realized that much talk is needed for the public to be very much aware of what sickle cell anemia is about given that it is a public health.
I think it's a problem like other diseases, because if we look, there are persons that do not know the sickle cell anemia, and we have to sensitize on it. We have to make sure that people know what is sickle cell anemia. They have to know what are the prevention on the anemia.
As a concern for all, it is worth noting that sickle cell anemia is a health problem that can easily be eradicated, and the better and easiest way is by going for an electrophorese test, which helps to determine the compatibility of to-be parents.
And like we said in the headlines, the scoreline situation between Egypt and Russia has just changed. 2 minutes into the second half, Russia is leading Egypt by 1-0. We'll be bringing you updates as the news unfolds. Thursday, 21st of June will be commemorated as World Music Day. In prelude to this event, a reporter, Vanessa, went to the streets of Douala to find out what Cameroonians think about music in Cameroon in general. Her reports.
International Music Day, a concept too good to believe, and the best part is that it exists. Music, a fruit of the soul, and art through rich history, cultures, tradition, love, pains, joy is being translated. A world of entertainment in which Cameroon has evolved as well. In previous generations, Cameroonian musicians had made popular genres like Makossa, Bikutsi, Astiko much appreciated by Cameroonians. Today, the new wave of urban artists taking the country beyond storm with their unique sounds leaves a positive remark in the minds of their population.
The music, the sound is very, very good, and to understand the instrument and the voice is very, it's make beautiful. It's very good.
For the Cameroonian music, we always know that Cameroon is very powerful for play music. Cameroon know how to do something like music, playing music, even traditional music. They are doing all. We only learn about traditional music, gospel music, even Makossa. That's the Korean music.
In prelude to the World Music Day that will be celebrated on June 21, activities like concerts will mark the event. Meanwhile, many see Cameroon music to be good. They also recommend that moral and ethical values be promoted. Things still need to be done at the level of instruments, he decries.
They are not doing their job well, so they are not learn to play an instrument. So that we are seeing now that the old music, everybody, I love the old music, that the new music, that the youth have to work hard. To bring up the good music like the old have done.
Music had existed as long as mankind had found its voice. The famous writer Victor Hugo once said, "Music expresses that which cannot put into words and that which cannot remain silent." As such, Cameroon music in all its form leaves a glimpse of joy that shapes its cultures and values and promotes multiculturalism among its citizens.
We hope the ethical and moral value of music would be maintained in our country. We now talk some game. What is a chess game, and what are the criteria that qualifies an individual to play this game? This is an issue our reporter Wamba Tansi Mirabel will be looking at after visiting some neighborhoods here in Douala where this game is being played. Here is her report.
Many call it the game of the educated, reserved and wealthy class of people. But what is a chess game?
Chess is all about chess. It's a war game where you have two camps, and the objective of the war is to kill the king of the other side. All what we do, all the tactics, the strategies which are put in place, it has as objective to kill the king of the other camp.
And who are those qualified to play this game?
For now, the game is not really well known, because it seems to be reserved to a certain class of person, even though you have some youth we are interested because they have it on their computer, their laptops. When they buy laptops, you have there inside, and they try to play with it. But at the professional level, it looks like chess for now is reserved for a particular class of people.
How can those interested get involved, particularly with this federation running the affairs of the chess game in Cameroon?
When the federation organize a tournament like this one, you have to pay fees to participate, you have to pay your transport, and there are some other, you have to pay your license, first of all, which is not all the Cameroonians cannot afford it.
Bearing in mind that the chess game is not meant for a particular class of persons in the society, it is a game that needs time, patience, and concentration in order to win. During chess competition, the players are concentrated more than ever before, adding to the fact that the timing is one of the prerequisites for winning or losing the game. Both the old and the young are involved, but at the same time must be registered members of the National Federation of Chess in Cameroon, with its headquarters at the Bali neighborhood here in Douala. Many, according to the deputy director of the game in Cameroon, are not aware. She added that during this national competition, they have just 10 players. Meanwhile, many could be in and out of Douala without being informed about the federation. She is therefore suggesting that a sensitization campaign is necessary to keep the public and Cameroonians abreast about the chess game in the country.
Thank you, Wamba. A game that many of us still need to learn. Now talk some sad news. Seka Zubairatu tells us that the family of Dan Pulo, that is mourning the loss of a daughter, sister, cousin, niece, colleague, and friend. She died recently and has been buried at Ndawara in the northwest region of Cameroon. After a 7-day period, according to the tradition, Thanksgiving prayers have been organized in her memory. Her reports.
It is with sadness that people came from all parts of Cameroon to present their condolences to the Danpulu family. Due to the loss of their daughter, it was equally an occasion to pray for her soul to rest in peace. Hindu, as she was called, died in South Africa after being ill for some time, buried in Ndawara in the northwest region of Cameroon on Friday, 15 June 2018. In the Muslim tradition, after 7 days of loss, a prayer ceremony is organized, commonly called Sadaka. This ceremony opened with a reading of Quran and continued with prayer for Allah to receive her soul in paradise. During the prayer, it was said, "It is Allah who gives and still Him who takes." The family of Danpulu appreciated and wishes a safe journey to those who came to mourn with them. Until we meet again, Hindu, rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Hindu. We now talk some news in our foreign page. The US President Donald Trump is doubling down on zero tolerance policy on illegal migration, a crackdown that has led to at least 2,000 undocumented children being separated from their parents at the US-Mexico border. We have details with VOA correspondent.
Once rare, but now routine, separating undocumented minors from their parents and holding them at an array of facilities near the border while their legal cases go forward.
This is not the Texas I know. This is not the America that I grew up in.
The latest manifestation of the Trump administration's determination to hold, adjudicate, and deport undocumented immigrants and to raise the bar for asylum seekers at the border has sparked a backlash. But Trump isn't backing down.
The United States will not be a migrant camp, and it will not be a refugee holding facility. Won't be.
The administration insists it is merely closing an immigration enforcement loophole, saying past administrations gave preferential treatment to undocumented immigrants with children.
Word got out about this loophole, and the results were predictable. the number of aliens illegally crossing with children went from 14,000 to 75,000 in just 4 years, a 5-fold increase. This cannot continue. We cannot and will not encourage people to bring their children or other children to the country unlawfully by giving them immunity.
Trump has repeatedly blamed Democrats for Washington's decades-old paralysis in addressing immigration. Now Democrats and a growing number of Republicans are in fact banding together, but in fierce opposition to family separation. Republican Senator Ben Sasse called the policy wicked and harmful to kids, adding, quote, "Americans are better than this."
What we're doing as a nation is inflicting enormous harm on these kids and on the parents when it's totally unnecessary during this time when they're waiting for their asylum hearing.
Senate Democrats introduced a bill prohibiting family separation except when a child's welfare is at risk. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives votes this week on 2 Republican bills that would overhaul America's immigration system and boost border security. It is unclear either bill can pass the chamber. Michael Bowman, VOA News, the Capitol.
Before we continue with our foreign page, the bad case is becoming worse for Egypt as they are being led by 2-0. The second goal came in at the 59th minute. We'll keep you updated as the match unfolds. We continue with our foreign page, and this time in Costa Rica. It is a Central American nation which is among the tropical countries in the world that has very high concentration of snakes. 20 of the more than 120 species in that country are among the most poisonous. A research institute in that country is bent on producing the snake bite antidote, which is what makes a difference between life and death. We have details courtesy VOA.
Costa Rica's Clodomiro Picado Institute produces antivenom serums to counteract snake bites for use in Central America and elsewhere.
What makes the production of antivenom serum complicated is that the snake venoms vary according to the region. So, antivenom or antivenom serums have to be specific for countries or regions.
Estimates vary, but at least 20,000 people die from snake bites every year, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia. To make the antidotes, the poison is extracted from the snakes manually by massaging the snake's head and collecting the fluid in a flask.
Here is all the venom.
In this room are some of the most dangerous snakes in the world. They could kill any adult within a few hours, so extracting the venom is a delicate process.
When you lose the respect and fear of the snake, that's when accidents can happen.
The other part of making the serum involves horses. One of the veterinarians at the institute explains that horses produce antibodies to the venom in their blood, which is extracted from antivenom serum production. Researchers say this process is not painful for the animal.
They handle themselves quite well. They learn to work. They get used to the work. And also because we can get large quantities, large volumes of blood, for profitable production.
The production of antidotes is no easy task, but at the Clodomiro Picado Institute, the search for new cures against snake bites never stops. Jacopo Luzzi, VOA News, San Jose, Costa Rica.
And Egypt continues its progression downward, continues sinking. The scoreline situation has changed. It is 3-0 in favor of Russia, who has continued and insisted on pinning down Egypt. Now, the third goal came in at the 61st minute of that encounter. We'll keep you updated as the news continues. This time we talk about this Russian World Cup that is ongoing, and we're looking at the cost of organizing this 2018 edition of the World Cup. The ongoing World Cup in Russia is the most expensive ever, with an official price tag at $15 billion. Several huge new stadia, air routes, upgraded airports and other facilities have been provided. Will this World Cup bring in a good value for Russians, as the government appears to have used the World Cup to bury some bad economic news? We have details, VOA.
Officially, Russia has spent close to $3 billion on 12 new or upgraded stadiums. At least another $8 billion has been spent on infrastructure. But was it good value for the money?
The discussion of the efficiency of the championship in Russia, like in Brazil, is the discussion of economic efficiency of a wedding dress. On one hand, it's necessary, it makes everybody happy. The exact economic efficiency definitely cannot be defined in American quarterly financial reports. It's a long-term story. We still hope to become not only hockey country, but football country.
Brazil hosted the last World Cup in 2014 at a cost of $11 billion. 4 years later, many of their travelling fans feel shortchanged.
Comparing Brazil with Russia, the infrastructure here is much better than ours.
This is the biggest number of tourists that Moscow has ever seen. And in total, they're doubtless spending billions of rubles having a good time. But after they've all gone home in 4 weeks, Russia hopes there will be a longer-term benefit to hosting the World Cup.
The $15 billion investment is aimed at giving Russia an image makeover in the eyes of the world, even as it faces sanctions over its invasion of Ukraine.
Putin, with all this strength, pretends that all that is not important for him. Despite sanctions, we conduct such a gorgeous World Cup. Despite sanctions, we go ahead with the war in Syria, and the world has no right to lecture us. And the people enjoy that until the very moment that they start feeling that for all this pleasure, they are paying out of their own pockets. It is right now that they start feeling that.
First to feel it are the middle-aged. On the opening day of the World Cup last week, the government announced a gradual rise in the pension age from 60 to 65 for men and a bigger jump, 55 to 63 for women. 62-year-old Eva says most Russians are taking it in their stride.
It wasn't really unexpected. Probably they thought the championship, the euphoria, will somehow smooth out the effect. There was a joke going around. Yesterday I had 4 years until pension age. Today I have 9 years. And they keep telling us that you can't get your youth back.
Russia says the World Cup is partly a gift for its youth. Unforgettable memories and glittering new facilities. The tournament finishes in a month. Its legacy will be measured in the coming years. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, Moscow.
And now let's talk something smiling about this ongoing World Cup. The Teranga Lions of Senegal have put smiles on the faces of Africans after beating Poland 2-1 in their first World Cup match. Ate Bonaventure in the following paper paints a picture of Africans' performance so far in the competition.
Senegal's 2-1 victory over Poland has put smile on the faces of Africans after 4 of their darling teams failed to shine at the first outing at the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia. First, it was the Pharaohs of Egypt that were humbled 1-0 by Uruguay at the dismay of many Africans who had seen the most decorated African Nations Cup team as one of Africa's backbone at this edition of the FIFA World Cup. As if it wasn't enough, sadness again struck Africa as the Atlas Lions of Morocco were beaten by Iran in their opening game 1-0. When the Super Eagles of Nigeria were about to take on Croatia, many thought it was the hour of Africa to smile after suffering defeat in 2 outings already. Things turned sour for Africa as the Super Eagles were stopped from flying by Croatia after a 2-0 spanking to plunge Africa into more pain. Tunisia yesterday failed to turn the table round for Africa in their eloquent task of beating England as they were given a 2-1 defeat. However, despite the poor performances from these African countries, they have lost just the battle and not the war, as they will have 2 games each in their groups to make it to the next round of the competition. Africans will be looking forward to smile more when Egypt takes on host Russia this Wednesday in the first match of day 2.
That was the bit we put together in this edition of the news. Ladies and gentlemen, the news in which we were informed about candidates for this year's probatoire examination, as we have images behind. In the French subsystem of education in Cameroon have begun writing their examination nationwide. It is their gateway into the sitting in for the baccalaureate exams next year should they succeed. And report says exams began here in Douala, hitch-free. We also heard about Cameroon joining the international community today to commemorate Sickle Cell Anemia Day. In line with this, the center in charge of sickle cell anemia at the Lakantini Hospital in Douala received some gifts to facilitate their activities. And we heard about football's At Least Africa Writes Her Name in the ongoing World Cup competition in Russia, with Senegal taking the lead over Poland 2-1. The victory of Senegal is expected to galvanize the other African ambassadors to this football jamboree in Russia, ambassadors who are all beaten in their first outing. And for the ongoing match pitching Egypt versus Russia, the scoreline situation as of now is still 3 goals in favor of Russia to 0 for Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, we would be leaving and we'll keep our hands closed, expecting that anything can happen. It is a game of football, and until it is 90 minutes, the victor is not yet declared. The next newscast will be coming up at 9 p.m. with Luke Sage Didier Nang. As for me, we'll be together again at 8 p.m. tomorrow for what would have made news. Until then, good night.